Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is your boy Fitzmonk TV here, aka G-Lorne33. Welcome back to another episode of the Legit Shoot podcast. Here tonight with your SmackDown review and results for March 29th, 2024. Hope you guys are doing well. To be honest, I don't remember the last time we did a SmackDown review here on the channel. And if you guys saw my Raw review, from this past Monday, I told you guys don't expect these all the time. All right, expect these here and there, but it is WrestleMania season. We are about a week out from WrestleMania in Philadelphia. So I did want to give my thoughts on the show last night, because I did believe it was actually a very good show, even though there was no appearances by The Rock, Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, none of the really big players. But still, I think they did a really good job. You know, the focus was kind of basically building up the mid-card matches, right? You know, the matches that, of course, they're not at the top of the card. The matches that will be probably taking place probably a little bit earlier in the show, right? And they did a really good job of building up those matches. Of course, this show was centered around the debut of Jade Cargill, her first main roster appearance. She is officially signed to SmackDown, and now we know her direction going into WrestleMania next weekend, as they set up she's going to be teaming up with Naomi and Bianca Belair and going up against Damage Control in a 6-woman tag team match. So I love the way they set that up. So we're going to talk about that here. Like I said, if you guys weren't here for the Monday Night Raw review, go check it out. It's live on the channel. We talked about how great a show that was in Chicago this past week. And we talked about everything with The Rock, you know, and Cody Rhodes situation, how great that was. CM Punk coming back in his role now with the Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre World Heavyweight title match. So go check that out. And I told you guys on that review, when I'm going to try to be more consistent with these reviews, but when I do them, right, I may not go through the whole show. I think I want to spend time talking about the stuff that I want to talk about. And then really just keep things moving. So some of these reviews might not be as long as you're used to, but I do want to be more consistent, with the podcast now this year, hopefully, God willing, and get back to what you guys have loved and you have enjoyed about me these last couple of years. So really, like I said, SmackDown last night was really focused on the mid-card, right? Building up the mid-card matches for WrestleMania now that we are pretty much just about a week out. I'm recording this on Saturday, so a week from now, I probably won't do a SmackDown review unless, I probably won't be doing a SmackDown review next week. Of course, with WrestleMania taking place that same night. So you're probably just going to focus more on just WrestleMania itself. But still, I really wanted to talk about the mid-card scene and the debut of Jade. So I was not gonna waste any time. So of course the show opened up with Jade Cargill making her debut, right? And I will say, she's been signed now for well over half a year now, and outside of her her appearance on the Royal Rumble, they haven't done much with her. They've been teasing her. They had her going back and forth on Raw, SmackDown, NXT, right? But I will give Triple H credit, they haven't rushed her, right? I did think, since she's somebody that is going to be a star in WWE for years and years to come, right? I thought probably starting her in NXT would be fine, right? You could have her in NXT at least for most of this year, and then slowly build her, up to the main roster. But, they decided, no, we're going to just fully put her on SmackDown, which is whatever. I trust Triple H. If Triple H believes she's truly main roster ready, then fine. We all saw her in AEW. There was, we saw her moments of greatness, right? But we also saw that there was a lot of times where she was still very green. But based on what we've seen and the reports we've heard of her coming out of the Performance Center, she has been getting better, right? mastering your wrestling craft is not something that happens overnight. It takes place over years and years of experience and being in that ring a long time. So if Triple H really believes that she's ready, right? Because she's a star. She's somebody that you can build that entire women's division around. Once she truly masters and really reaches her peak. So if Triple H fully believes that she's main roster ready, then I'm all for it. I am all for it. And she has everything about her is, screams star, right? Her build, her aura, her presence, her physique, right? Her talent, and so she came out and basically when they did her entrance, right? I believe it's the same exact song she had in AEW. I haven't listened to like comparisons, but of course that I love that guitar solo. I wouldn't be surprised when she comes out at WrestleMania that if she I wouldn't be surprised if she has a guitarist with her, right? Playing that solo, playing her to the ring. I love that guitar riff. One thing you guys may not know about me, I play guitar in my spare time. So I love a good guitar riff. It adds so much to her theme. I love that riff. But she came out, right, and then her entrance. So basically they had the way they had the camera pointed. They had the camera pointed so when she came out, right, it would make her. They had the camera point at a downward or an upward angle. The camera would be down, pointing up, so it'd make her look like kind of like a giant, kind of similar to what they would do in Almas. But then they had like this. I forget how to explain it. The way they had like the light shut off in the arena, but they had like this small spotlight in the middle to make it like. So when she walked out, it was like she was like walking out of like an actual storm cloud, and then she would do her normal, flex of the muscles pose that she's been doing for years in AEW, and then she walked down to the ring. She walked down in the ring in this beautiful red outfit, right? She walks in, got a nice little pop, right? Corey and Wade Barrett are putting her over on commentary. Wade Barrett, I love Wade Barrett. It's like Wade's like foaming at the mouth talking about Jade. And Corey's like, get back on track, Wade. She comes into the ring. Nick Aldis has the contract waiting for her. She signs it, right? And that's that. She cut a very, very brief promo, but it was pretty straightforward and to the point, right? All she said is, pretty much like, with the women's division we have, I'm just going to elevate it to that much of a level, and that nobody in this division was ready for her, and that SmackDown, a storm has arrived, right? That's like her, her whole thing, her being like this thunderstorm wherever she is, the electricity she brings. And that was that. It was simple. It was only a couple minutes long, but it drove the point. One thing I will say that I did notice, some people mentioned this on X, right? The way Jade talks, her promos, they're very straightforward. It reminds me of Roman Reigns back in the day. Of course, Roman now in this tribal chief era, he's evolved a lot as a promo, right? And he's gotten a lot better. I wouldn't say Roman's the best, he's not on the level of like a Cody Rhodes or anybody like that. But Roman can now cut a really good promo when he needs to, right? Back in the day, especially those like 2015, 2016, those babyface years when he was the big dog, Roman, he wouldn't say much and he didn't need to say much, and he would take these pauses, right? He would say a couple words and then take a pause, right? React to the audience and say what you need to say. Sasha would do the same thing. I always say Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné, best female wrestler in the world, right? But she's never truly been known really for her promo skills. She can cut a fantastic promo when she needs to, but that's never been her, her strongest asset. And that's me coming from, that's coming from me, one of the biggest Mercedes Moné fans around. Jade is very much the same way. Jade doesn't need to come out and cut these, crazy Cody Rhodes type promos. She can say what she needs to say and get her point across in just a couple words, right? Just because you take pauses in between your promos doesn't mean you're not good at promos. Not everybody is gonna be the John Cenas, the Rocks, the Stone Colds, when it comes to being on the microphone, right? Sometimes you just need to say a couple words, and that's it. Every superstar has their own personality, has their own story, has their own aura about them. And this is Jade. She doesn't need to cut a long promo to get her words across. Just like Sasha Banks, just like Roman Reigns back in the day, just like so many other superstars. So that was one thing I noticed, right? Even though it was a very short segment, I knew right away that there was no way that was all that, Jade was going to be used on this show for. Yeah, I knew it right away. There was no because she was promoted basically as the biggest thing going into the show. So I was like, no, there's definitely going to be more here. And of course, it felt like everything was aiming towards the main event with Bianca and Dakota Kai. Let's jump to right. Let's jump to that real quick, and then we'll talk about the rest of the show. But yes, so Bianca Belair versus Dakota Kai. That was promoted as the main event, and I have a good amount. I have a decent amount of thoughts on this whole thing with Bianca and Dakota, right? So there was a backstage segment with Bianca and Naomi talking about their history with Damage Control and having each other's backs, right? I really do like the pairing of Bianca Belair and Naomi. Bianca. I think Bianca taking a break really from the title scene is needed for her, because pretty much almost her entire time on the main roster, she's been in the title scene, and I think it's just natural also with the way the fan base is. It comes to a point where people get tired of it, right? I think we're experiencing that now kind of with Roman Reigns. I've been saying, I've kind of been tired of Roman's reign, pun intended, for a couple years now. As great as he is with the storytelling and the cinema, I've been over, the whole, Roman's 3.5 year title reign. I've been over it. If you guys remember, I've been over it really for almost 2 years now, Of course, I don't make the decisions, and I've enjoyed the ride he's taken us on as champion, but I've been over it now for 2 years, And with Bianca's been in the pretty much in the women's title scene since she came up on the main roster, right? Winning the Royal Rumble, beating Sasha at WrestleMania 37, right? It was either 36 or 37, 37, I believe, back in 21. And then of course she held that title, then lost it to Becky, then beat Becky and got it back, and then had another long title reign, which was I think well over a year. Then she lost the title. I forget who she lost the title to. But then she won the title. Was it last? I don't know if it was last year at SummerSlam, and then it was cashed in by Io. So for the most part, Bianca's entire main roster career, she's pretty much been in the title scene. Right. And at some point it gets a little tiring. Sometimes you need a change of pace. I remember some people were like, "Oh, we need to turn Bianca heel," which because Bianca's been a babyface her entire time on the main roster. And I was like, yeah, I think you can explore that, but I think there's other stories you can tell with Bianca as well still right now while she's still a babyface. At some point, it would be good to see Bianca, turn heel. It would be a good kind of, change of pace for her character, but you don't have to rush to do that, especially right now with Jade. I think, and we'll get to Jade in just a second. So, having Bianca take that break from being in the title scene, I think does her well. Right, we all know how much of a star Bianca is, and I think at some point again in the future, Bianca will be champion again. But I don't think that time needs to be now. I think now is the time for Bayley, right, to be champion, Rhea to continue her dominance, and maybe down the line we can explore, potentially having Bianca as champion again. But you have Bianca and Naomi, right? Naomi's only been back now a couple months. And, now she's been dealing with the, Damage Control. And, when I look at it, I was like, where was Jade going to fit in? Right? And the whole point, when we didn't know originally if Jade was even gonna be on WrestleMania, even be on the main roster. They had been teasing us for months. I was like, maybe they're gonna wait till after WrestleMania to officially have Jade make her first WrestleMania debut, or to make her official main roster debut, right? But they decided to go down a different direction. So they have Bianca and Naomi, right? Naomi saying, I'm going to have your back. Bianca's like, I'm going to have you back. You know, that normal babyface stuff. We get the match, right? Decent match, right? But you could tell that there was something that was going to happen afterwards. And then, what happens? And I'll say this: I'm a huge. I love Dakota Kai. I think she's one of the more underrated superstars on the roster. I truly believe when I say this. I think you could build Dakota Kai up one day to be world champion. You know, like for real. I think after WrestleMania and after this Bailey Io feud, it could continue after WrestleMania, but after all this like kind of settles, Dakota kind of takes the place as like the true leader of Damage Control, in my opinion. I could definitely see maybe somewhere down the line where Dakota Kai becomes champion. Maybe you build her up to eventually take the title off of Bailey, because I think Bailey will be winning at Mania. Who knows? But that's how high I am on Dakota Kai. I think she is heavily underrated. Heavily underrated. So either way, sorry. So getting back into it, Bianca wins with the KOD, and of course, when the KOD is sold correctly, it's one of the most beautiful finishers in the entire industry. Love when opponents sell the KOD the right way. So after the match, of course, Asuka and Kairi Sane come right away to attack her. Naomi shows up to make the save, but Damage Control has the numbers advantage, and then Jade comes out. Right, she comes out and she looks like a pure badass. She had changed her outfit. She was no longer wearing like the red outfit she was wearing earlier. She was wearing this beautiful like brown kind of like it was like mix of a jumpsuit. Like it was like fancy but also kind of casuals where you can move around. Right, it was like a fancy jumpsuit in a way, and I loved it. So she comes out. Right, she slowly walks down to the ring. And, you could feel, like, the aura about her. It felt big time. I loved it. And then she comes into the ring and she takes out Damage Control with ease, right? Power slams, all this. Then she did, like, her finisher, which is basically, like, Beth Phoenix's, like, Glamazon finisher move, right? So she does that, and then she puts, I think it was Kairi Sane, and then she did like, if you watch her AEW, whenever she would win a match in AEW, she would like lick her fingers after hitting the 1, 2, 3, and I was like, wow. I'm not gonna lie, I was like, oh my gosh, because I was like, damn, looking like a sexy badass. And then afterwards, she poses with Bianca and Naomi as they're staring down Damage Control to end the show. And then it was just like, this is awesome, right? You have 3 strong, beautiful, fierce, intense black women just standing there. And I'm like, all right, I don't think this is going to become a faction or anything, but seeing seeing those 3 stand tall to end the show, it's such a big thing, not just for like, women everywhere, but this for black women, for black excellence, right? It's so cool. It was an amazing visual. These 3 black women with unique personalities about them. You had Jade standing there like with the Vegeta pose with her arms crossed, right? You have Bianca, of course, and then you have Naomi to see. You could see Naomi couldn't even hold her excitement. She's over there just like hyping, Jade and Bianca up. And clearly, of course, they announced it right after the show ended. 6-woman tag team match at WrestleMania, right? Perfect. Honestly, it's perfect because, some people are like, oh, Bianca and Jade at WrestleMania. And I was like, there was no way they were going to, set that up with only a week before, where we're only a week left before Mania. There was no way. That's too big a match for them to only give 1 week of build. right? And we didn't know if Jade was gonna come in as a baby face or a heel. Clearly she's a baby face right now. Even though she was a heel her entire time in AEW. So they set up the match, and it makes perfect sense. It's a way to kind of protect Jade, right? Since it's her first main roster match on the biggest stage, right? And you're pairing her with, two of the best in the business in Naomi and Bianca Belair, who have ton of WrestleMania experience, right? So it's a perfect way to make Jade look strong and to give her, the biggest stage to really showcase her skills in a match, right? But for the WWE audience who hasn't seen her in AEW, outside of the Royal Rumble, they've never seen her like in the ring. So in a way, and the nerves of her first WrestleMania, it's going to make it easier for her to do her job, knowing that she has Bianca and Naomi there to help her and back her up, right? So, Bianca and Naomi are there. Jade's going to do her thing, and yeah, I think it's perfect, right? Bianca, I can already see now, either by Bianca or Jade, one of those two will get the pin for the win, right, on Damage Control. And, that will also make Bianca 4-0 at WrestleMania, right? She has never lost at Mania. I'm not saying they're making Bianca into the next Undertaker, but, still, they have kind of played up that Bianca hasn't lost in, her first three. She's beaten Sasha. She's beaten Becky. And of course she beat Asuka last year. So, yeah. So it's good. It's good for Bianca. And a couple things. All right. So in terms of Jade, right? Like I said, Jade's gonna be a star in this women's division for years to come. Right? She's gonna be the next Rhea Ripley. Once she's ready, you're gonna build her up to be a future women's champion. No matter if that's on Raw or SmackDown. Once she's ready, she's gonna be a dominant women's champion. And of course all the matches you can do with her. Jade versus Charlotte, Jade versus Bianca, right? That Jade versus Bianca, I think will most likely take place for next year's WrestleMania. Unless they try to rush it for SummerSlam, I would say more. I think most likely, that's a match for WrestleMania next year. I don't know if it'll be for a title. We'll see how this year goes. I don't know if Jade will be ready for that yet, but definitely that's a future WrestleMania match right there. That's a dream WrestleMania match for many. Jade versus Bianca. Jade versus Rhea Ripley, Jade versus Becky Lynch, right? Those are big time matches. Jade versus Nia Jax. Even if I'm not the biggest Nia Jax fan, but that's a match that a lot of people are gonna want to see. Maybe you do that at SummerSlam. I don't know. But for Jade, this, like I said, this is the perfect way to get her feet wet, her first WrestleMania, right? Because in the coming years, if everything goes well, she's going to be one of, if not the biggest star in that women's division. And she will be, headlining WrestleManias with, those names I just said as a future women's world champion. For Bianca, like I said, this is perfect for her to keep her WrestleMania streak alive if you want to use that. Like, say if it's Bianca versus Jade next year at WrestleMania, right? Oh, Bianca comes in 4-0 at WrestleMania, against Jade, and then Jade gets her first singles WrestleMania victory against Bianca Belair, breaking her WrestleMania streak. That's something that they could be already planting. Who knows? I see some people, that were unhappy, kind of with this being what Bianca's match was going to be, right? Clearly from the start with Io, when she first won that championship all the way back at SummerSlam, it was obvious that Io versus Bayley was going to be the long-term plan. That was obvious from the get-go. Everyone knew from that second on that Bayley was going to most likely win the Royal Rumble, unless Sasha or somebody else came back. But it was going to be Bayley against Io. So, and I think it was, like I said earlier, it would be good for Bianca to get a little bit of a break from the championship picture, and some people are like, oh, her being put in a tag team match, right? It's kind of a waste. guys, would you rather her be on WrestleMania or not? This was kind of the only avenue for Bianca to be put on WrestleMania, if we're being honest. Right? Like I said before, you were not going to do Bianca and Jade at this year's WrestleMania, with 1 week build. No, that's a match you're saving for next year, right? This was the best way to get Bianca on the show. Plus, down when history looks and we see, Bianca, Jade, and Naomi, right? Bianca and Naomi, let alone are future Hall of Famers. Hopefully, Jade will develop a Hall of Fame resume for herself in the coming years. People are going to look back and be like, you remember when they teamed up against Damage Control at WrestleMania? How cool visual it was to have, three strong black, excellent, three strong black female wrestlers, right? On the grandest stage of them all, come out victorious. People are going to remember this for years. That's going to be a huge moment in women's history, in women's wrestling history. So when you look at the grand, scheme of things, this is huge for Bianca. This is huge for her career, right? And I think probably if you look at the future, I could see like the next 2 WrestleManias, Bianca versus Jade. Obviously, that should be a future WrestleMania match, probably next year if you ask me. And then, Bianca versus Rhea Ripley. Remember, we have not yet seen Bianca versus Rhea Ripley on the main roster. There's been a reason why WWE and Triple H have kept them apart on separate brands for the most part. Of course, if you saw them back in NXT, that was years ago. Bianca and Rhea are much bigger stars now. So I think in the future, right, Bianca has way bigger WrestleMania matches coming in her future. Bianca has not reached her peak yet in WWE. So I think in the grand scheme of things, right, especially, going into the future, Bianca's going to do crazier things with even bigger opponents and bigger names. So the fact that at least she's on WrestleMania, right, shows how big a star she is. Because they could have easily kept her off the show. Or they could have put her in some stupid battle royal or whatever. Bianca's going to be on the main show, which shows you how much WWE sees in her. So that's on that. Quickly, just a quick thing on Asuka before we move on. Asuka, I know, like I said, I don't see the heels winning. So Asuka's never won a WrestleMania match, so I saw some people, especially some Sasha fans, they were like, it seems like, Asuka's getting the Sasha treatment, right? For years, people talked about Sasha's WrestleMania record. And of course, I expect Sasha to be back in WWE one day, maybe in a couple years. And she'll finally get that WrestleMania victory she so deserved for so long. But, Sasha, she at least got a tag team victory at WrestleMania a couple years ago. Asuka's never won a WrestleMania match at all. She's been in title matches, at WrestleMania, and it kind of sucks for her. It does. I love Asuka, and hopefully one day maybe she will get that WrestleMania victory. But I did see some Asuka fans and some Sasha fans talking about that. I don't know. I don't think it really hurts her legacy. I think when you look at it, Asuka will go down as one of the greatest women's wrestlers that WWE has ever had. Just look at her. Look at all her accomplishments. She's won the Royal Rumble. She's won the Money in the Bank. She's won every single women's title multiple times. SmackDown Women's Championship, Raw Women's Championship, right? Tag team titles on 3, 4, 5 different occasions. So she's done it all. She's arguably one of, if not the most accomplished woman on the roster. The only thing she doesn't have is that WrestleMania victory. And she probably won't get it this year. Hopefully at some point she does, and I think she will. And I love Asuka. She's one of my favorites. But I did want to mention that quickly. Yes, it sucks that Asuka will probably get another WrestleMania loss on her record. But still, I think it doesn't really take away from her greatness. So I just wanted to quickly mention that. But yeah, other than that, that's my thoughts on that whole thing. Looking forward really to seeing how Jade does at WrestleMania. I think she's going to look dominant. And I'm excited to see where they go with her. I think how she looks at WrestleMania will really determine in the long run, when she could be ready potentially for becoming champion. Who knows? Maybe after WrestleMania, you know, I could, cause remember, this is a tag team match. It's not, the women's tag titles are not on the line. So I could definitely see maybe something if they want to do like Bianca and Naomi, or Bianca and Jade, or Jade and Naomi, if they want to do something like that and have them be like the challengers for Kyrie and Asuka, going to whatever the next pay-per-view is. I don't know if it's WrestleMania Backlash or something else. That'll be interesting. But I think how Jade looks at WrestleMania will have a lot to do with the plan with her going forward, and how quickly she rises through the ranks of the division, or if they just decide to keep it nice and slow with her. All right. So next up, Kevin Owens and Randy Orton versus Pretty Deadly. This was, a decent tag team match. Nothing too crazy happening here. The biggest thing was so the babyfaces lost, but of course it was because of Logan Paul. So Logan Paul came out. So Randy Orton was fighting Pretty Deadly on the outside near the announce table. Logan Paul comes out, and then he punches Kevin Owens with brass knuckles, and that allows Pretty Deadly to get the win. Logan Paul hides under the ring so that Randy Orton wouldn't see him. I love what happened. First off, Randy Orton got mad at KO. He's like, "What the hell are you doing? How the hell you lose? How you have us lose to this bum ass tag team?" But then I like this because it seems like WWE and Triple H are finally trying to not make the babyface look so stupid. If you guys have been listening to me for any amount of time, I would say this: WWE has in the past, especially under Vince, would always make the babyfaces look so dumb. So dumb. I had a thing like stupid babyface moment, right? Instead, it looks like maybe WWE's turning the corner in that regard. Because after the match, Randy Orton, right, he was mad at KO, like, why the hell are you losing to this team? But then they showed the replay on the video board, and you could see Randy Orton looking, and he saw, it wasn't your fault. Like, you got attacked from behind by Logan with brass knuckles. And then you can see Orton looking at the crowd and actually asking the crowd, like, where's Logan? Right? Under what corner of the ring is he hiding? So I love that because it was like, okay, they're finally not making the baby faces look dumb. So Orton goes and he finds Logan, right? And he starts brawling him. Logan runs away, and then I love how WWE, because they would never do this with Kevin Dunn, but WWE, they have, they had one cameraman follow Orton and KO all the way from the ring, all the way to the backstage area to the parking lot, where Logan went in someone's, literally did a Grand Theft Auto, pulled somebody out of their car, and then drove away before Orton could get his hands on him. And that's how it ended. So Logan's able to get away. And that was that. So, yeah. So we're still 1 week out. There's not too much of a story really here with this match. It's two baby faces against one heel, right? So we'll see. We'll see where it goes. I think everything's setting up for Logan Paul probably to retain, but maybe I'm wrong. This is a good reminder, guys. The next week, at some point, hopefully, I'm trying to look at my schedule. I'm thinking maybe Thursday, God willing. Either Wednesday night or Thursday. I'm hoping, because Wednesday I might be going to AEW, the AEW show here in Worcester. So I'm thinking maybe Thursday potentially we do sit down and do WrestleMania predictions. So hopefully be on the lookout for that. So next up, we had the Street Profits versus A-Town Down Under. And yeah, so this was, like I said, another decent. There was a lot of tag team matches on the show tonight. This was another decent match. But remember, this also, I forgot to mention, this was the winner of this match would get the final spot in the tag team title six-pack challenge match. I forget if that, I believe it's the ladder match, but maybe I'm wrong. But in the, of course, the six-pack challenge match at WrestleMania. Um, so, basically what happens is, so BFAB and Lashley were in the locker room. They didn't go out to the ring with the Street Profits. But then Karrion Kross showed up on the big screen to provide a distraction, right? Showing that he had laid out BFAB and Theory backstage. And so it caused a distraction, which allowed Theory and Waller to steal the win and get the WrestleMania spot, right? So I know the Street Profits not being the tag team title match, it doesn't feel right. But I do think they are going to be on WrestleMania, which we'll talk about in just a sec. So afterwards, AOP attacked the Street Profits, and then they were joined by Cross, right? Lashley, being the babyface that he is, he walks down to the ring, even though he's clearly, it's like 5-on-1, but he doesn't care. He gets in the ring. He was overwhelmed and beat down by Cross, and then Cross went in his ear, basically like, yeah, none of you guys get to go to WrestleMania now, right? And this is the thing, but another thing, and it's a good thing. WWE now has, I think, done a decent job of rebuilding the tag division and the faction division. There's lots of factions now, right? Bloodline, Judgment Day, LWO, the Final Testament. I forget the name of Bobby Lashley's group. There's a lot of good factions now. There's so much talent on the roster that you really don't have a choice. Really, you need to have factions. But I think what this is setting up with, because I would love to see the Street Profits being in that tag team title match, but I think what this is setting up for, because I look at the card, I think with the Bianca Belair, with the tag team match with the 6 women in it, I think that brings the match card up to 12 matches, if I'm right. I think what they're gonna do is have Lashley and the Street Profits versus the Final Testament in some kind of no holds barred match at Mania. I think that's going to be the final match announced for the card next week. So it'll be like a 6-man, anything goes, no holds barred match, right? Especially because it would suck to not see, because especially for Bobby Lashley. Remember, I believe last year Bobby Lashley was supposed to face, rest in peace, Bray Wyatt at Mania. But of course, Bray started having his health issues, and then we later learned, of course, that would lead to his eventual death. So, it would suck to not have Bobby Lashley on WrestleMania 2 years in a row, knowing how Bobby Lashley is a big star. He's a big babyface. He's a big star in that company. So I think that's what's most likely going to happen. They're going to do a 6-man with the Street Profits and Bobby Lashley versus the Final Testament, which could be good. I found out today that they're doing the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal next week on SmackDown, which nobody really cares about, if you ask me. I'm sorry, but I don't care about that. And they're doing that on SmackDown next week, but they're doing a 2-hour pre-show both nights of WrestleMania. I don't know why they just wouldn't put some of those matches on the pre-show. It would help them out, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't really care about the Battle Royal at all, so that's whatever. So, next up we had New Catch Republic versus Legado del Fantasma, right? But I'm getting my notes messed up. Before New Catch Republic versus Legado del Fantasma, Santo Escobar and the rest of the LDF, they welcomed Dominic Mysterio to the ring, right? And it basically was real that LDF had recruited Dom to be part of the feud with Rey Mysterio and the LWO. So then Rey and the entire LWO came out, right? And basically, they Ray challenged Escobar and Dom to a tag team match at WrestleMania. Um, they accepted, but Dom was like, "Who's gonna be your partner, right? Like, who are you gonna choose?" And the fans were chanting Carlito, right? But would have been cool. But instead, it was revealed that it would be Dragon Lee. Dragon Lee is now on officially on the main roster as the newest member of the LWO. I think he was on the main roster before, but now he's like officially part of the LWO. So you can see these factions continue to grow bigger and bigger. So it's at Ray and Dragon Lee versus Dom and Santos Escobar at WrestleMania. And that, it makes sense. Makes sense. Of course, Dragon Lee and Dom have tons of history, from their battles over the North American Championship on NXT. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would say I'm really that too much invested into this, right? Because of course it doesn't have the same level of intrigue that Dom and Ray had at WrestleMania last year. But of course, when you have a legend like Rey Mysterio still able to go, you're gonna get Ray on WrestleMania however you can. So I feel like this was, and of course WWE sees a lot of value in Dom as well. So I feel like this was, the help. Of course, Ray still feuding with Santos Escobar, but this was a lot to help, get both onto the show. So it made sense, right? So that's confirmed. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting now. There are a lot of matches, a good amount of matches on the WrestleMania cards, but luckily you have it now, spread out between 2 nights. So probably like night 1 will have like 7 matches, and then night 2 will have like 6 matches, something like that. So yeah, getting on to the tag team match that took place afterwards, right? There was a brawl that took place between the factions. I would say this freaking Selena Vega looking beautiful in that she had a beautiful like black outfit on, looking. And then we had and I forgot to mention here, Angel and Barto taking on Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate, and that would also determine who would go into the 6-pack challenge match at WrestleMania. So it was a pretty good match, but Bate and Dunn were able to get the win. So New Catch Republic get the final spot in the 6-man eliminator match, or 6-man. I forget what it's called. The 6-man, is it eliminator match? No, I'm not. I'm thinking about AEW. I don't know why I'm getting all my words mixed up right now. I'm thinking of the 6-pack challenge match. Sorry. Forgive me, guys. But yeah, they get the final match in the tag team title 6-pack challenge match at WrestleMania. So real quick, the Judgment Day was there on SmackDown. And Judgment Day was very confused, right? This has been, the second straight week that Dom has went and done something on his own without communicating with the group, right? Last week, when they Dom went out there and attacked Ray by himself, Rhea on Raw was like, "Hey, that was great, but I would have loved to have been there too. Just communicate with me." And then tonight, or last night on SmackDown, the entire Judgment Day was there, and Dom still went out there on his own, with with Escobar and Legado del Fantasma. So they were confused, right? What's going on, because Dom has not been communicating, especially with Rhea, who's his mommy, right? So that's interesting. And then also, Finn tried to reiterate that WrestleMania is going to be huge for the Judgment Day, and they all have to stay focused. Of course, with the tag team match, but Damian Priest said something very interesting. He basically was like, it doesn't matter if you're in a tag team match or a singles match at WrestleMania, you have to be focused. Rhea caught on to this, and Rhea was like, is there something you want to tell me, Damian? But it seems like Damian's hinting, of course, to cashing in Money in the Bank at, WrestleMania. Of course, he's had the briefcase since July, so, He doesn't have to worry about it yet, but it's been 7, 8 months now, so he has to start thinking about cashing in before running out of time. So I do think Damian will cash in at WrestleMania, or at least will attempt to cash in at WrestleMania. I don't know if he'll be successful, but after what CM Punk said on Monday Night Raw this past Monday, right? I do think there is a chance Damian Priest could be walking out of WrestleMania um, as um, as the World Heavyweight Champion. But we'll see. We'll see. Um, but yeah, but definitely something to keep an eye out for. Moving on. What else am I forgetting? Oh yeah, two other things. Um, Bailey Bailey attacked Io Sky. Io Sky did a nice backstage interview, kind of similar to how Shinsuke Nakamura does his backstage promos. Basically explaining in detail why she turned on Bailey, right? Why they kicked Bailey out of damage control, etc., etc. Very good explanation. Made sense. You know, how even though her and Bailey started off as friends, right? She knew in the long run that Bailey was trying to use damage control to make herself look greater in the process. And then yes, Io did admit that Bailey did play a huge role in her becoming women's champion, but that as time went on, it felt like Bailey was trying to take that credit for herself, and that they knew that the writing was on the wall and that they had to get Bailey out of damage control. So Io's explanation made pretty perfect sense to me. Then afterwards, right, Bailey attacked Io. They brawled. They broke it apart, and that was the end of the segment. So yeah. So I'm still going with Bailey's gonna win at Mania. So it'll be interesting to see how they put the finishing touches on like this part of the story at WrestleMania. Because even if Bailey wins at Mania, I think the feud's going to continue. I honestly think a lot of these feuds at WrestleMania are going to continue going to whatever's the next pay per view. Like, truthfully, I think I think we're going to see a lot of new champions coming out of WrestleMania. So, I think a lot of these feuds are just getting started. The last thing we got to cover here tonight, AJ Styles. So AJ Styles came out, cut a promo. First off, AJ Styles teased that he has new music. He was on Up, Down, Down this past week, and he teased that he has new music for WrestleMania. He says as much as his old theme, has worked for him, and he's had that since he came into WWE back in 2016. It's crazy to think that AJ Styles has been in WWE for basically almost a decade now. It feels like just yesterday. But Styles said that even though his theme is badass. I mean, I love AJ Styles' theme. It doesn't make sense for this style of his character, which is more intense and is now a heel. So he did say at WrestleMania he's gonna have a new theme. So I am excited to see what that theme is gonna be. But he comes out and he kind of he chewed LA Knight out for attacking him at his house. And even though Nick Aldridge told Styles that he told LA Knight not to be there tonight, he knew that LA Knight would not pass up this opportunity and that he had to be there somewhere in the crowd, or somewhere in the arena. There was like a fan that jumped the barricade. That Styles was about to punch who he thought was Knight, but it was just a fan. He also got on one of the cameramen, thinking that one of the cameramen were, dressed up as LA Knight, under disguise, but it wasn't. So Styles is walking around the ring, and then you see basically LA Knight is hiding behind, kind of like as a security member. He's hiding behind, he's wearing a wig, he's wearing glasses and a hat. And then you see Styles, he looks on the video board and he sees LA Knight, taking off the disguise, and then they brawl. LA Knight grabs a chair, tries to hit Styles with it, but Styles runs away, LA Knight cuts on the announce table, cuts a very short promo, but straight into the point, saying that it doesn't matter at WrestleMania. Styles can't run, he can't hide, and he's gonna learn whose game it is. With everybody saying LA Knight, yeah. Just clear attitude era vibes. It gave off prime Stone Cold Steve Austin, So I love LA Knight, but yes, he is a lot of his character. Is It feels a lot like Attitude Era Rock and Stone Cold, but it's also part of the reason why we love LA Knight. You know, he's his own man, he's his own guy, but he does have a lot of his character has a lot of Stone Cold Rock vibes. It's like literally a perfect mashup of the two characters. Um, but still, I think LA Knight and AJ Styles is one of the more underrated matches on this card, for real. I think that, and of course Jimmy and Jey Uso. I think those. I honestly, those are probably the two most underrated matches on the card going into next weekend. The card is looking fantastic, but I just think those two matches, are being, because AJ Styles I still think is one of the best wrestlers in the world, and LA Knight with his star power. I'm wicked excited for that match at Mania. I'm excited to see what Styles' new theme song is gonna be, that he's been teasing, and and I think this is big for LA Knight. Even though he's an older superstar, so is Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes is almost going to be turning 40 years old next month, and now we're seeing wrestlers kind of, wrestle old, longer and longer. Cena, Edge, all these guys are in their mid 40s still wrestling. Um, so yeah, even though LA Knight's an older guy, I still think he has years left to be at the top of WWE. And even though I was hoping for LA Knight and Logan Paul originally, I think you shift that plan for SummerSlam. I think you keep Logan Paul as champion until SummerSlam, and I think that's when you do Paul and LA Knight. But I am excited for LA Knight and AJ Styles. And I think that's one of the more underrated matches on the card, especially AJ Styles, who hasn't been on WrestleMania now in a couple years. I believe last year he was hurt, and I want to say it was 2 years, right? 2 years. It's been 2 years. He was on WrestleMania last year because I think it was injury, if I'm right. And then last year, was it last year or no? 2 years ago, he faced Edge, I think it was, and that was when Rhea joined Judgment Day, if I'm right. So yeah, but still, it's gonna be good to have AJ Styles back on the WrestleMania card, and I am excited for that match. And to see hopefully LA Knight get his first WrestleMania moment. Long time coming for him. But yeah, so other than that, that's about it for SmackDown tonight. I don't think I'm forgetting anything. But yeah, like I said, very good show. Wasn't focused on the big match on the card, kind of more focused on building up the mid card matches, but definitely the debut of Jade, it was a strong show. It had very strong direction and really did a good job of highlighting putting a focus on some of the other matches on the WrestleMania card, which may not be the matches you first think of when you think of WrestleMania this year. So excited for Jade. She looked amazing alongside Bianca and Naomi. Pretty good stuff. Love LA Knight, of course, right? Like I said, I think, going into WrestleMania next week, right? With the final Raw and SmackDowns, right before they're in Philly, I think, they are in very, very good shape. We are in store for a epic WrestleMania weekend. Cannot wait. I'm hyped for Raw. I think I'll be back for a Raw review on Monday, God willing. I'm very, very, intrigued to see how they follow up The Rock's beatdown on Cody Rhodes. I want to see Cody kind of get his payback, right? Or get some kind of measure of revenge on The Rock, especially afterwards, I don't know if you guys saw the clip on Twitter, how even after Raw went off the air, The Rock was still beating Cody. You could see the producers saying clear, and The Rock got mad. The Rock got mad at the producer saying clear. He's like, oh, just because the show's over and the cameras are done rolling, we're done. So I don't know if it was like, The Rock wanted the film more for the story itself, or if he was just still in character, right? And his emotions were running so high that he decided like, oh yeah, I don't care if this show's over or not. That doesn't mean it stops. And The Rock took the belt that had Cody's blood and he beat him with it, which kind of like made me feel away. Like I said, I don't know if it was real or not. Like I don't know if The Rock went into business for himself, right? If that was scripted or not, for The Rock to beat down Cody even after the show, after the camera's cut, you know. So, because you can see, afterwards, The Rock says, fuck him. He walks away. You can see, like, the producers and, like, Bobby Roode and all of them, they were like, whoa. So, I don't know. I don't know if The Rock went into business for himself or not. I haven't heard anything from, like, the dirt sheets or anything like that. But I definitely want to see how they follow it up. They did have Paul Heyman on SmackDown say like how the attack on Cody Rhodes was orchestrated by Roman Reigns, right? So but Roman, Rock, Cody, and Seth they're all advertised for Raw this week. I don't know if CM Punk is. I don't know if that, but still, I am very very excited for Raw this coming Monday. I'm very excited for WrestleMania this coming week. It's gonna be absolutely exciting. Cannot wait. But yeah. But let me know what you guys thought of SmackDown last night. Let me know if you guys enjoyed the podcast, the review. Let me know what you guys are excited about going into WrestleMania this coming week. I'll be covering it all week. We got tons more to talk about. It's gonna be an epic week. The best weekend of the year for wrestling fans. WrestleMania week. Cannot wait. Let me know. Let me know. Your thoughts down below. If you guys are new to the channel, leave a like on the video, subscribe, hit the bell right next to my name, Fitzmonk TV, so you guys are notified every time I post a new video. Follow me down on social media, links are in the description down below. I will see you guys later. Stay safe and healthy, y'all. Peace.